Hello, everybody. This is Louis Santos of WeAwake Technologies, and today is the third week of our guest host series here at WeAwake. And this week we have Colette Baron-Reid. She is a great WeAwake friend and partner. She's a world-renowned intuitive counselor, psychic medium, TV personality, author, and radio host. And we call her the Oracle. And today she's going to be taking us in an extraordinary um, practice today. Hi, Colette.
Hi, it's so great to be here. Thank you so much. My favorite now it's called WeAwake. I love it. It's great. So why don't we just jump in here then, Louis, okay? Um, and what I'd like to bring up, one of the things that Louis forgot to mention is that I am an author, a published author, and I am published in 27 languages. And my best-selling book, The Map, which was #1 for a few days, but anyway, talks about a specific process that I thought I would share. And it is called the Envision process. And what it is, it's a meditation process that really helps us move out of an anxious state where I think all of us could use a little help right now. Since the collective energy is so pervasive, even if we don't have any specific thing in front of us in our world of conditions that make us feel reactive, we can still be very, very impacted energetically by the collective. And so this is an energy medicine, energy psychology technique, sorry, I trademarked a number of years ago, and I've trained psychologists and other practitioners of how to do this with a client when they can't move them from a fight-flight state. And I'm using this a lot lately, and it's based on a couple of elements. So creative visualization is a really important element in a lot of my work, and I'll tell you why. For me, I am very ADHD. I'm not so much today, although my husband would probably come on here and say, I was lying. But I've been clean and sober almost 35 years now. And when I first got sober, I got into meditation training and I couldn't sit still. I could not focus. I just couldn't do it. I went to the Tibetans. I went to the Zen temple. I went and studied. Obviously Ken Wilber was I was a big fan of Ken's, and I just couldn't get it. And so what helped me dramatically was creative visualization. And for those of you who were around way back then, and I'm in my mid-60s, so I know because I was around when creative visualization was first published by Shakti Gawain. I don't know if that name rings a bell to any of you, but it was humongously impactful for me that if I could hear words and if there would be a voice that could take me through a process that could give me prompts, I could follow the bouncing ball. Now, what I'm going to encourage you to do is after we do it, I would love for you to share in the chat what you experienced and what you saw. And I do want to also give you a caveat. A lot of people can have difficulty with creative visualization if they have expectations of being visual. I know that sounds kind of like, well, why are you calling it visualization if I can't visualize? Many of us cannot see anything, and it's not necessary that you see. So don't expect a Cecil B. DeMille epic movie to be like, going across the screen of your mind, and you think you're doing it wrong if that doesn't happen. In fact, our unconscious, this trademarked process that I'm going to be providing for you is specifically geared to engage you in something called active imagination, which is Jungian, and to enable you to bypass some of your subconscious programs. So you're able to get a glimpse, maybe just a glimpse, or you're going to hear the word. And hearing the word is just like reading a book. So some of you may never see a vision of what I'm showing you, but you're just going to know what I'm talking about. You're going to go, oh, she said bird. Oh, I saw a raven. Why would I think that? So remember, for those of you who have trouble seeing things in meditation, my advice to you is to initially just make a decision to say, whatever comes to me is I can be curious about. Oh, that's interesting. And so when I say the word bird or another word, say, and now you'll see this, you have to think to yourself, if I were to see this, what would it be, right? So you'd give yourself the opportunity to just let your unconscious download an idea. So for you, you might just have a series of moments of experience throughout the vocal piece, and you won't see what I say, right? So again, I really stress that, because so many people, when they get into this kind of a thing, think they're doing it wrong if they didn't see what I'm saying. Now, many of you are also feelers. Now, I'm an empath, so I have a tendency to feel too much, but I also feel the feelings of what I am required to look at. So most people right now have been inadvertently trained to be searching for perceived threats. Okay, so we have been in fight, flight, sustained fight, flight globally, and I'm sure people are here from all over the world. So I don't want to be geographically specific, like say, for example, only speak about the United States. I live in Canada, for example, and I have students from 51 countries in my school. So, every single person, no matter where you live on this planet right now, are part of this big growing shift. We are energy beings. That's science. That's got nothing to do with the woo. We know that we are sensitive to one another, that we're connected at an energetic level, that at a global level, we are all going through this huge process of transformation as our social structures change. We have this social justice revolution going on. We have a shift for everybody in terms of climate change, who we are as human beings. Are we on the planet or with the planet? Are we nature or are we looking at nature? So all these things are coming up for all of us. Relationships have suffered, our relationship to the world. And now we are being invited into a brand new way of seeing things. And none of us are there yet. We're just not there yet. Even the wise elders, these are still ideas that we haven't yet experienced fully because they haven't happened yet, but we sense it in advance. We all do. So right now, I'm going to suggest that if you're watching this video, you likely have been at some point in any given day in the past, 10 months or so, been prone to anxiety or fear, or responding or reacting to your conditions, your outer conditions, in a way that puts you in a constant sense of alertness, looking for what could go wrong. And what we want to do here with this meditation is give you a tool with a fantastic WeAwake track to be able to quickly shift yourself. And it's a playful way. By the way, this works great for kids. So if you have little kids, do it with them. You can show them this video and they'll have a lot of fun. So did I tell you to write something in the chat? Louis, I said that, right? I'm going to ask my team here. As you can tell, I'm not alone. Okay, so let's go with the music. Let's have the music come up, and we're going to listen to the music a little bit. And while we're getting used to the track and settling in, preferably you'll be sitting upright, but if you're lying down, that's okay too. We just really want you to pick a spot and don't move. So I'm going to invite you, while you're listening to the music and just sinking into the track, to consider this. And if you have a pen handy, that'd be great too. But just if you don't, just think of this. I'd like you to temporarily revisit what is typically the state of mind that you move into when you're fearful or anxious. Now, you might not be feeling that way right now and be a little bit resistant to for me to tell you to go there, but it's important, so you'll have the tool to use later. So if you were to describe, using 3 adjectives, 2 or 3 adjectives, what your state of mind, and let's work with anxiety and fear, that's the easiest for us, what would it look like? If you can have 3 adjectives, and For me, when I feel tight, I definitely feel unable to focus. So I'm out of focus. I am tight in the chest and throat. And I feel ungrounded. So that would be me. So what would your 3 things you would say to yourself about, gosh, when I'm anxious, this is what comes up for me. So we just want to identify that first while we're getting used to the music. That wonderful track. And it'd be great to write that down. And now I'm going to invite you to ask yourself this. If this was a place that I was temporarily inhabiting, because our feelings are always in motion. They are never forever. They just feel like forever when we're experiencing them. So if this was a place, instead of a feeling that you were feeling, if you could describe the place you were inhabiting, what would that place look like? Here's an example. Mine might be, I'm in an abandoned warehouse, stuck in a corner, and the walls are coming like this on me. That would be what mine would look like. Maybe you're in a swamp, a desert. Let's take a couple minutes for you to just get a sense. What would that place be? The place that represents my fear and anxiety and uncertainty. And just know that you are not the place. Let's go there next. Can you identify the fact that you are the one looking at this place as opposed to being the place? So let's just regroup for a couple minutes, and I'm going to talk to you about something that I think is useful for our times right now. So I am the creator of, so far, 13 Oracle card decks. I mentioned that I'm published in 27 languages around the world. And although my background is Jungian psychology, and I have deep interest in many different methods of personal growth and transformation. Most of you know I'm in recovery because I mentioned that at the beginning, but divination is something that has been very important to me since I was a kid. So I got into creating these tools, but not for use that people look at Oracle cards, for example, and think of fortune telling, but instead I use these cards to look at energy, to track energy, to navigate our world, and to see as a prescription rather than a prediction what we could do better to stay in alignment with our highest good. So I thought for today, this is the deck that I teach with. It's called Wisdom of the Oracle. Oops. This deck here, I'm going to pull some cards for all of us today to answer this question. And you'd notice, right, you would pick a very different choice in your life if you were coming from the first place and then the place where you landed, wouldn't you? I certainly would make very different choices if I'm feeling threatened than when I'm not. So now that we're not, any of us, what do we need to know about staying in alignment with our highest good? And I talk about the collective good, because if my will is in service to the greater will or the greater good, then I will be in alignment. And that's how I see things, really more about contribution and service. So let's see what the cards say. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I am going to choose some cards. Okay, see what they say. Just using 3 of them. Oh, these are great. All right, so I'm going to read the cards separately and then tell you what the story is together. So flexible is the first card. So this card represents the need for us all to release rigidity. And when we are uncertain, what do we crave? We create certainty. But there is a level of orthodoxy and a sense of rigidity, and that we're noticing that in the world as well too, that it has to be a certain way only. If we're going to do it, it's got to be this. And very little nuance has been allowed certainly in our public discourse. And, it's temporary, because the pendulum always swings and comes back to the middle at some point. But we are in really extreme times in terms of how we engage in the different subjects that are coming up for all of us right now. And so the need to be flexible is so beautiful, because we can be flexible. Human beings have the ability to choose. We don't have to come to anything with a rigid expectation or a dogmatic understanding of how the world has to be, because even nature works, and with biodiversity is essential for nature. So unity and diversity is so important, but we need to be flexible to see beyond the ends of our noses that in fact we need everybody. We need different opinions. We need to be able to have ways in which we come together and something new is created as a result of our coming together. But when we're in our separate boxes, we lack flexibility. We lack the capacity to reach across the divide to say, hey. And so this is what this is requiring of us right now, is the flexibility to move out of our box, if you will, open the box and reach out and say, okay, what can I learn? And can I be curious about the world instead of judgmental, for example? Now, this moves into another concept, and it's called no place like home. It was initially in an upside down position when I chose it. And in my Oracle card decks, I have upside down cards are protection messages. They're not the opposite, right? They're basically a way to indicate we need extra care here. So if we go from flexibility into no place like home, and no place like home is in the protection position, it reminds us that we are in a process of transformation. The butterfly, it doesn't go from caterpillar to butterfly, okay? And a caterpillar isn't bad because it's not a butterfly, right? But there is a transformation that makes us feel like we don't know where we belong for a temporarily. It can bring up those ideas of being in the in-between. There still is a pupa and a larva that has to happen, because the actual caterpillar's dying to itself in order for it to transform into the butterfly. Those are the stages of metamorphosis. I probably got them backwards, but whatever. So we are also going through this process. And so we have sort of figured out that, we don't really know what the new home looks like for any of us. And so if we remember to be super gentle with ourselves and with others, to recognize that we are all feeling the same uncertainty, and that in this uncertainty, we can step into the uncharted. We can actually become pioneers to discover a new land that is essentially available to everyone. And it's something that's really steeped in compassion. And so if we bring that idea together, then we know that we're in alignment, and it's okay for us to let go our comfort zones. And that will be changed into something else. And it's not always going to be stressful. But I can tell you, can you just imagine when you were a caterpillar and you were fuzzy and green and happy and eating leaves with your buddies, and all of a sudden one day you start to have nightmares that you could fly? Like, what the heck? I'm like, what do you mean? And then you feel sick, right? You're starting to feel really sick. And then you're like putting this cocoon around you, and you're claustrophobic. Now you don't know where you are, and you're like getting naked, and you're like, where's all my fuzz, and where are my friends? And I don't know. And I'm dreaming about flying, and how the heck can I do that? And I'm feeling really shitty in here. Like, and then all of a sudden you're feeling like, oh, I got to get out of here. And then, poof, poof, and then you crack open the cocoon and you're flying. You might even go, nah, nah, to the other caterpillars. But the point is this is a process. Birth is a process, and we are all blessed as this is going. So one of the most profound stories that I ever was introduced to when I first got clean and sober, and again, I talk about recovery because it's part of my story, and my sobriety makes it possible for me to do this work with you. So I was introduced to someone named Matthew Fox, and Matthew Fox had a sermon called Original Blessing. And this is his whole concept, that we were not born in sin, which by the way, just means to miss the mark, which I believe we typically have missed the mark as we grow as humans and pay more attention to our egoic mind than our spiritual connection. And we don't integrate quickly. Now everybody just wants it like that. They experience something and they want to be experts and on the other end of it. But the point is this, is that I was taught through that we are born blessed. And as a medium, I know we don't die. And so I identified with the idea that if we are truly spiritual beings that are inhabiting human lives, that we are experiencing ourselves in the human way. But first, our primary reality is that we are spiritual first, human second. Then would we not be blessed that we are the thought? We are an actual thought of the divine. The divine had to think about us, and then we were created. And that's why, our unique note needs to be played in the symphony of life. But we aren't broken. We aren't broken. We've been experiencing different aspects. Yes, we are in tremendous darkness sometimes. We are seeing the results of the choices that we have made as a collective. And we have a great opportunity right now. If we could see through the eyes of blessing, if we could really remember that we are not subject to the conditions of our lives imposed upon us, that in fact, that we are immortal beings, and we get to choose. It's not always easy, because when we get into that space, of fight, flight, and anxiety, we don't know that we have a choice. But I just helped you move your mind in such a short time today. So what would you choose? How would you want to be? And how would you want to contribute to the world? And I bet that you would be thinking that more happiness, more joy, more connection, more abundance, more equality, more justice, more beauty. I don't think any one of us would pick more dark. No, I'm certainly not signing up for that. I have had a lot, I will tell you. Oh, and my dog is barking. Tinkerbell, come here. Okay, that is my ending. So listen, if you guys would like to get to know me a little bit better, I have a website, of course, ColetteBaron-Reid.com. And you can play around with my oracle cards there for free. Get a chance to understand the relationship you might have with these amazing tools and storytellers, because ultimately we are all stories in motion and we are the ones writing our stories. Check out, just check it out and see. Follow me if you like on social media. We're always doing fun things, free things, things you pay for, things you don't. And you're always going to hear me talking about WeAwake, because they are my most favorite company on the planet for this wonderful kind of tool. Take care.